Hello, everyone. This is Irene from James Lee Consultancy. And today we're very lucky to have Donna Creswell from Queenswood School. 大家好，我係 Irene。咁今日好高興邀請咗 Donna from Queenswood School 嚟講關於呢個好傳統近倫敦嘅女校。Donna, would you please introduce yourself?
Thank you, Irene. Yes, it's a pleasure to be with you all. My name is Donna Creswell. I'm Director of External Relations at Queenswood Girls' School. We are an 11 to 18-year-old boarding and day school near to London. Okay, so what I'd like to do for you today is just talk a little bit in general terms about UK boarding schools and things that you might like to think about when you're considering boarding school for your child. And I'll give examples from my own school, Queenswood. So just to start with then, so what are UK boarding schools known for? Well, clearly their educational excellence. They're well known around the world for providing amazing education. The co-curricular offer, which is rarely provided by other countries, is a particular feature of a UK education. And I'll talk a little bit more about that shortly. Clearly, preparation for top UK universities is very important. We prepare our children for universities around the world, but clearly we have a particular advantage in the UK if your child has their sights set on Oxford or Cambridge or UCL. So we understand the universities, we've got relationships with them, and we know how to prepare them for entrance to those universities. UK schools offer an amazing multicultural experience. In my own school, we are delighted to welcome children from 23 different countries, and it's a fantastic experience for those children to mix with lots of different cultures. Clearly, there are huge opportunities to improve their English language skills. They're being taught in English all day long. They are just absorbing the language and the culture around them day to day. And finally, and it's a great opportunity, really, they have the immediate access to the well-known heritage, arts and culture of the UK. Okay, just moving on then to the next slide. I just thought I'd let you know really how many children we welcome from around the world to UK schools. And you may or may not be surprised to see that mainland China has the largest contingent, followed very quickly by Hong Kong. And in my own school, we are very used to welcoming girls from China and Hong Kong, and they do tend to settle very, very well, very easily. And yes, as you can see, they are the main contingent, but they are two nationalities amongst many. And I think that's the key thing to remember, that all schools tend to make sure that they have a mix of nationalities. So it's a very important thing to check with the schools that you're interested in what the national mix is. Okay, moving on then. So you may already be aware of this, but there are a number of different types of boarding schools in the UK. So if you're thinking about sending your child at a younger age, there are junior schools that are known as preparatory schools or prep schools. Now, these will be for age 7 to 11 or 7 to 13. And they're either single sex, either all boys or all girls, or they're co-educational. When you move on to senior schools, there is a lot more variety. So you have to be very careful about doing your research into the type of school that you're interested in. So these are for children aged 11 to 18 or 13 to 18. Again, you can have single sex or co-educational. You can have specialist schools, or you can have all-round schools. So a lot of schools offer an all-round provision, but if you have a child who is particularly strong in, say, music or drama or sport, you may want to find a school that is exactly right for those. It's also worth bearing in mind that most boarding schools do also take day children. And this is actually a huge advantage because the international children, they make friends with the day children. The day children will invite them home for a weekend or to go on holiday. And they are really immersed in a British culture, which is such a fantastic experience for them. So it's just something to look out for. Okay, moving on to the next slide then. Okay, so as I said, single sex or co-educational, this is a big decision for you to make. And what I would suggest is don't close your mind to either route. Think very carefully about what will suit your child. Are you going to look for that all-round provision to really make the most of the co-curricular that so many great UK boarding schools do offer? Or are you going to make it pretty narrow? If your child is particularly academic, maybe you would be looking for a very pure academic school. Location is clearly really important for Hong Kong parents. Naturally, Heathrow Airport is very important. So looking for access to Heathrow, I think will be a critical thing for most. You don't want your child having a long plane journey and then perhaps getting on a bus or a train and having to go for hours again to reach their school. So many parents do like to think about close proximity to Heathrow Airport. You may have a preference for your child going to school in either city, town or countryside, and the UK offers all of those options. Fees. Now, this is a really important thing. You've got to ask lots of questions about this. Don't just look at the standard fee for the term or the year. It's all about the extras. Do find out, are trips charged as extra? Are the English as an additional language charged as an extra? Music lessons are likely to be charged as extras. So to get the total cost of how much it's going to be to send your child to the UK, do think very much about extras. And then, of course, academically, this is really important. Do look at the academic results, not only the A levels, but the GCSE results and the university destinations, of course. All of this comes together in a really important package of investigation for you. Okay. So, just a little bit more about co-curricular provision. So there are some schools that will offer a vast range of co-curricular, like my own school. We have over 100 options for the girls to choose from every term. And that can be anything from horse riding through to chess club, through to badminton, all sorts of sports, music, arts and drama. So really, I would encourage you to think about making sure that the school that you choose has a very good co-curricular provision. The next area that needs a lot of consideration is the weekend activity timetable. A lot of parents can be very nervous about what their child is going to do at a weekend. And this is so important, especially for the younger children, because they need to have a lot of activities to keep them focused, so they're not bored, so they're not too homesick, missing their parents too much. But as children get a little bit older, in our school, we give them the option because we understand they need a little bit of relaxation time as well. So they have activities they can join in, but we don't make them join. Pastoral care, again, is really, really important. Your child is going to be thousands of miles away from home. You want to make sure that the people looking after your child have the right attitude and there are enough of them to look after your child. Standard of accommodation, clearly very important. You can check that out at the moment, obviously, virtually on websites until you can physically come and make a visit, but you can ask lots of questions like how many children to a dormitory, what's the standard of food like, all those sorts of things. Now, just a word on exeats. This can trip up some new parents. Exeats basically are where the children all leave the school for a weekend and they can go to their guardian or with their parents' permission, they can go to their friends But do find out how many there are a year, because some schools have fewer than others, and you do have to think about where your child is going to go at that particular weekend. Also think about the ratio of boarders to day pupils. That's really important. You don't want too few international pupils that they're going to feel a little bit outnumbered by day pupils. Guardians, they're really, really important. We would always suggest, if you can't have a member of your family as a guardian, then we would advise you to go to the Aegis organization, and they approve guardians. So if they're on the Aegis books, you know that they're an approved bona fide guardian. And then finally, on this section, visa application support. It's quite a logical process, but there are lots of different stages. Some schools will hold your hand all the way through the process. Like my school, we have somebody totally focused on helping you with your visa applications. Not all schools offer that. So it's something to ask when you're looking at different schools. Okay, just a few words about the differences between educating boys and girls. Girls and boys do learn differently. Girls tend to like to work collaboratively more. They like real life examples, and boys can tend to take more risks in the classroom, tend to put the hand up more readily, whereas girls like to be confident of the answer. So those are big generalizations, I understand, but broadly speaking, these are the differences. And so we believe very strongly at Queenswood Girls' School that girls learn better if they are taught in the way that makes most sense to them and don't have the distractions too much of boys. But it's important that they do mix. So do ask any single-sex school what the opportunities are for a girls' school to interact with boys' schools for activities and vice versa. I've mentioned quite a lot about co-curricular activities. These we believe passionately are really important because children can discover their strengths through non-academic work. But even if they don't do that, it gives them a mental rest from all of that academic work. So they can do sport, they can do music, they can join a choir, they can join in debating. And it just gives them a very balanced, holistic approach to their education. Now, English as an additional language is clearly a really, really important aspect of your child's education in the UK. So I'm sure you'll spend a lot of time talking to schools about what their provision is. In my own school, we provide 1 hour's one-to-one tuition per week per child, and also up to 4 hours of group tuition, and then additional support if they need it. So I think that's really, really important. And also personalised learning support. Now, these two aspects should work closely together. And what this means in the Queenswood setting is that every child, in our case, every girl, has their own personalised learning programme designed to develop and fit in with her personal learning style, her preferred way of learning. And so every teacher understands how to differentiate the way to teach their lesson. So if your child prefers to learn through images rather than text, then the lessons will be adjusted accordingly. So again, it's another really key area to look out for. I feel that we are unique in the way that we offer personalised learning, and it's a strength of our school. Pastoral support. Now, clearly you are going to be very concerned about how well your child settles into school. It's all going to be quite new and strange for them. So really make sure that they've got the right level of support within the boarding house, that there's the sufficient number of house parents, boarding assistants, and also in schools like ours, we offer counsellor support, we have a medical centre, we have a chaplain who works with girls of all faiths and none, So I think it's really important that you get an understanding of how important pastoral care is in the school that you're looking at. Okay, this pastoral support also extends to dietary and medical needs, of course. Schools like mine, we cater for all types of dietary requirements, whether those be on religious grounds or for medical grounds, and also for medical needs. I've already mentioned we have our own medical centre, which is staffed by qualified nurses with access to a general practitioner. So again, this is a really important part of the whole package that you're buying into to make sure that your child will thrive, from a pastoral point of view as much as an academic point of view. And finally, I just want to mention that there are lots of wonderful sources of information if you're considering sending your child to the UK. James Lee Consultancy are very experienced in placing children in the UK, so please do make the most of what they have to offer. Do look at school websites. I'm sure you'll do that anyway, but particularly in lockdown, it's a great source of information. Many schools like mine, we have a virtual tour, which is really fun. So you can zoom around the campus, looking in different classrooms. You can look at the bathrooms, you can look at the dining room. So do make the most of those. The British Council has a lot of information about UK independent schools and UK universities. So that's all free for you. So do make the most of that. And I've already mentioned the Association for the Education and Guardianship of International Students. If you're looking for a guardian, that's a great place to start. And they could give you a list of various guardians. And if you're particularly interested in a guardian who's been looking after a child from Hong Kong before, they'll be able to point you in the right direction. And of course, finally, you're probably doing this anyway. Do talk to people who have experience of attending UK boarding schools, both the pupils and of course the parents, just to pick up hints and tips, what worked for them, what to look out for. Once you put all of that information together, I'm sure you'll be well prepared for making your choice for an excellent school for your child. Thank you for listening.
Hi, Donna. Okay, let me just close the screen now. There we go. So we've got some questions from our audience on the live. So I'll just read them out, and if you could answer them as we go along, that'd be great. Thank you. So if there are too many Chinese and Hong Kong students, will the shock affect the progress of learning English? Sorry, they've just used Google Translate for it. So hang on. So no, basically,
I understand the question. So basically, if you've got so many Chinese and Hong Kong girls around, are they really going to learn the English language properly?
Yes.
I think that was the base of the question. The answer is very simply yes. And the reason I say that is all of their lessons are in English. So from 8:20 in the morning through to 4:30 for academic lessons, then up to 6, 7 o'clock at night for co-curricular, everything is in English. All of the boarding staff will obviously speak to them in English. Now, I feel very strongly that they will need to relax at some point and speak to girls in their own language, because they need to switch off as well. If they don't switch off, they'll fall over, they'll collapse. So I'd like to reassure you that absolutely the girls' progress in learning English is quite astonishing, actually. And with the support of the English as an additional language team, they make even faster progress than you would imagine. So I think parents need to be reassured that they speak a lot of English, they write a lot of English, all of their work is written in English. And of course, the other really important thing is in our school, we get all of the girls to do something called Lambda, which is speech and drama. All of the international girls do it. And this increases their confidence about speaking the language in an amazing way. So they actually do qualifications in it, and the shy girls end up being the most confident that take part in the plays, the musicals, and then of course that helps their overall language ability. I think you're on mute, Irene.
Okay, so what is the current percentage of Chinese students currently studying at Queenswood, or Chinese speaking, should we say?
Yeah, Chinese speaking. Okay, really great question. So that's 10% of our, well, just under 10%. We have 40 Chinese or Hong Kong girls, and we have 440, so a little bit under 10%. And that's our limit, basically. They make up the biggest proportion, like they do in all schools in the UK. But we do want to encourage the multicultural aspect. So we do actually put a cap on the number of, we love the Chinese girls and the Hong Kong Chinese girls, but we just think it's more healthy that there's a bigger diversity of nationalities. So that's how we work it. And what we also do is we split them up into different houses, if you like. So they have different competitive houses, and of course they have different boarding houses. Depending on how old they are, they go into different boarding houses. So we make sure that we mix them up so that all of the nationalities are mixed up. We don't have all of one nationality in one boarding house or in one competitive house.
Okay, so the next question is, how many of the girls are actually boarders and how many are day students?
Okay, that's another great question.
So will the boarding house, for example, be empty during the weekends because all the day students have left? Or yeah, what is the percentage and what do boarders usually do during the weekend?
Okay, great questions. Okay, so 25% of our pupils are boarders. The majority are international, but we do have some British boarders as well. So the boarding houses aren't empty at the weekends. So we do have 125 odd girls who are in the school at the weekends. So we have a very structured activities program for every weekend, and that can be trips, say, into London. We make the most of being close to London, actually. So they will go to museums, art galleries, the London Eye. They go to shows, the ballet, all sorts of things. Plus they do, and they go out to places like Oxford and Cambridge. They go to the seaside, and they also do crafts and activities in their boarding house. They tend to come together for certain things as well. So, for example, in the summer, they'll have a picnic in the grounds, or they'll play a game of sport all together. But as I mentioned earlier, the older girls, very often they just want to relax with their friends, do FaceTime with their family. So we let them dip in and dip out and just chill or take part in the activities. So very structured for the younger children. The structure's there for the older girls if they want it, but they have a lot more flexibility. And some of the older girls can go into London on their own when they're 17 with their parents' permission. So quite a few of those do like to do that at the weekend and go shopping.
So how they can't travel into London by themselves until they turn 17 then, is that correct?
Right, yeah.
Okay, so how about going out as a group when they're below 17? Are they able to do this?
Yes, when they're 16, if they're in a group of friends from school and we know exactly where they're going and they will check in with us. We'll make sure that they phone us at a certain time, and then they tell us when they're coming back, what train they're getting. Then they're allowed to do that again, only with parents' permission.
Sorry, I'm just going through the questions as well. Okay, so from Gisela, hang on. Sorry, another question's just popped up. What are some of the extracurricular activities provided by Queenswood? And what is individualized pastoral care? Does it include career planning?
Two fantastic questions. Okay, so at Queenswood, co-curricular is huge. We haven't got time for me to tell you everything, but particularly popular co-curricular activities are horse riding. We do polo, and there's an equestrian team as well, and they're all competitive if they want them to be competitive. So the girls are doing very well at polo, and the equestrian girls are winning lots of things. We have a 9-hole golf course at school, so the girls can play golf. There's lots and lots of sports activities that they can do. We're very well known for art. We've got a fabulous art studio. So even the sixth form girls, if they study art, they can have their own studio area. Not many schools do that. They have to clear away all of their art things when they've finished doing their art, but they have their own area at Queenswood. We do things like there's all sorts of clubs, actually. There's one for feminism. There's one for the ancient Chinese history, actually, which is very popular.
Oh, very
I know. There's debating, there's chess, there's cookery, there's a knitting club that's just started. There's dressmaking, there's a reading club, there's fencing. I could go on and on and on.
And do they have to pay extra for these extracurricular activities?
Okay, most of them, they don't. So things like the art, the knitting, the I don't know, the chess club, they don't. For things like horse riding, they do, because we will take them to stables, the biggest stables in London, actually, fabulous stables. And we have to pay for, obviously, the hire of the horses. So there are a few that they pay for, but not very many. Sorry, there was another question before, which I forgot what that was.
So what are the extracurricular activities? What is individualized pastoral care, and does it include career planning?
Yes, great. Okay. Individualized pastoral care means that every single child, every girl in our school has their own learning plan. So that means if she has a particular learning style, if she likes to learn in big groups, or she enjoys learning through video, or she likes to absorb information through text, all of that information is collated and given to every single teacher, and they use it to do their lesson plans so that they can teach to that particular girl's preference in learning style. And that is supported by our personalized learning centre. So we have 4 members of staff who work in that learning centre, and they do either one-to-one tuition if a child is either struggling with an area or is an exceptionally gifted child and as a scholar, they will work one-to-one with them. And they can also go into the classroom and support on a particular piece of the curriculum. And again, give one-to-one or one-to-group support. So you can have 2 teachers in a classroom, and the classes are quite small, to be honest. So you're getting a very personalized approach. We have a careers officer, basic careers manager, who works with all of the girls from quite a young age, actually. So we don't just leave it until the 6th form to work with the girls about careers. So what we do is we have a careers area in the school. We have talks from people who come in from industry, from different disciplines, and they talk about their careers, how they got to the successful position they're in, what qualifications they needed. We have people coming in from universities talking about what they're particularly looking for specific university courses. And we also have a fantastic program for the girls that want to take the Oxbridge qualification, an entrance exam. So we work with a company who send us recent graduates who've been through the system in all the different subjects our girls want to take. And they tell them what you don't learn through the textbooks or on the websites. They tell them what the particular course tutors are looking for, how to prep for the exams. You know, all the extra things are going to make a difference to push them up the preference list when offers are being made. So, and the other thing to mention is, of course, the American university system is different, and we have one of our deputy heads is American, and she went to Harvard, and she takes the girls through all the specific requirements of the American university application system. So I feel we're really strong on career support and support for applying to universities.
Great. So where are the leavers destination? Where do students usually go? Which universities? And what are you able to share, for example, the percentage of Oxbridge applicants or successful offer holders?
Yep. Okay. So our girls go to mainly what we call Russell Group universities. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that term, but it's basically the top universities in the UK. We also have applicants who successfully apply to the US universities. And of course, some they are international girls. They go back to Far Eastern universities. So the vast majority do go to the top international universities. The applicants for Oxbridge vary year on year. Last year, we had 11 girls applied to Oxbridge. So we don't know how many are going to be successful this year, but you'll know that with the lockdown, our examination system is very different this year. And so it's going to be, grades are going to be awarded on the school's assessment of what that child would have achieved. So we've yet to find out how many are going to actually be successful. But we had 2 last year who went forward to one to Oxford and one to Cambridge, which was a bit low for us. But yeah, it does vary year on year. Oh.
Okay, so there is a question on on social distancing. So once a school opens, what kind of provision does the school have on, do you have a policy on social distancing or preventing COVID-19 or, can you share that with us?
Of course. Yeah, another great question. So at the moment, we are waiting to find out from the government when they say we should reopen. Our Prime Minister Boris Johnson is going to make an announcement on Sunday. So we think he's going to say that year 10 and 12 come back first, and we think that's going to be in June. We don't know for sure, but we think that's in June. So clearly we're making a lot of preparations for social distancing at the moment. So we are looking at making sure that we only have a few girls in each classroom. Now, because we have small class sizes and smallish classrooms, what this is going to mean is we are going to have to spread the girls probably over 2 classrooms when they would normally only be in 1, and then have a video feed through to the second classroom, and then the teacher will walk between the 2. So that's one thing. We're also looking at how we populate the boarding house or boarding houses. We have spare capacity in some boarding houses and not in others. So we're going to have to think very carefully about moving the girls around so that we can maintain the social distancing. So we're working that out at the moment. It's quite a complex puzzle, but we're working that out. The other thing that we're looking at doing is for day girls and staff, when they come onto the site, we're going to do temperature checks. And obviously, if they have a spike in temperature, then they'll be sent straight home. We did have an isolation unit before the schools closed because of girls that were potentially showing signs. We didn't actually have any COVID-19 at the school. We were very fortunate. But if they had a temperature, sometimes they had a sickness bug anyway, and we weren't taking any precaution, any risks. We were taking precautions. So we isolated them, and then we sent them either home or to their guardian straight away. And we're also looking at how we will enforce a one-way system around the school, because at the moment, of course, girls go backwards and forwards along the corridors, but we're going to introduce a one-way system. And also the other big area is the dining room, because at the moment, of course, well, before the lockdown, the girls would just come in, all the way through the lunchtime, be next to each other, sit next to each other, eat next to each other. So now we're going to have to stagger the lunch times and have obviously appropriate social distancing. So you'll only have, say, 3 girls on a table, whereas before you'd have had 8 or 10 girls on a table. So lunch is going to take a lot longer, but we are thinking about that. And the other final thing is PPE. We're just working that out at the moment, whether the girls should wear masks and gowns. I think that's what we're going to be doing. But we're just working out the logistics of whether it's masks and gowns or other things as well. So we're definitely planning for that.
Will the school be providing the masks and gowns, or will the students bring?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't expect the girls to bring their own, no.
Yeah. And how about the dorms? What is the maximum number per room?
Yes, that's a really good question. So it depends obviously how big the dormitories are. So for our younger children, we have 6 to 8 beds in a room. So that will be down to 2. And then with the smaller rooms, so where you've got anywhere from 2 to 4 beds, there will just be 1 girl in that bed. And then obviously we have single rooms anyway, so there's no problem with those. But okay, we've got flexibility because we do have day girls who stay overnight sometimes, and that's very popular. So what we're going to do is say that no day girls can stay overnight. We're going to use all of those beds for our international girls. Okay,
so I've got a few more questions to go through. They were asking about private lessons for students, private music lessons for students. So for example, we were asked it twice actually. So for example, private cello lessons or private music lessons during the weekend. Is this an additional, so will they have to pay extra for it? And is it available for more musical students as well?
Yes, so music, I didn't really talk about music before, but it's a really strong part of the school offering. So it's a very musical school and to a very high level, actually. So we do welcome lots of girls for whom music is their life. So we've got loads of music practice rooms. We have 8 Steinway grand pianos, and we have basically any musical instrument that your child wants to learn, we offer it. Harp, cello, bassoon, oboe, anything, drums, anything. Those lessons are charged extra. So yes, that is a charge, I'm afraid. And I could double check, but I think it's £30 a lesson. So yeah, that is an additional cost.
Okay. And well, we're running out of time, so I'll just take 2 more questions. One of the question is, sorry, let me, when is it most suitable for boys to go to a boarding school?
Oh, okay, that's a great question as well. So, okay, this is my personal view. If it's an international situation, which obviously it is for you, I would probably, it depends on the child. Okay, let's say that to start with. It depends how mature your boy is. Generally, boys tend to mature slightly later than girls, which is why the British education system has traditionally moved boys up when they're 13 to senior school, whereas girls have almost always moved up at 11 because they're ready to move up, they're more mature and they can take on new experiences. If it were me personally, I would wait until my son was 13. I would probably not send him as young as 11. I know some people do send them even younger than that. I think, yeah, they can miss home so much. They can perhaps not be quite as mature in terms of being able to deal with things emotionally. So that would be my personal recommendation on boys. But as I say, you know, it does depend on your own child and whether they're quite robust, sort of a little boy, or whether they are very much a home type of boy, you know, really love the home family situation. If they're really a home bird, as we'd say, they may struggle if they go away at 11.
So how about for the girls then? What do you think is the most suitable time for girls to leave home for boarding?
Okay, so I think it partly depends on how important their language skills are going to become. The younger that children learn a language, as we probably all know, the faster they learn it, the more naturally it comes to them. And also the quicker they're going to integrate into a culture. I think it's great for 11-year-old girls, actually. They, you know, we do actually have quite a few Chinese and Hong Kong Chinese girls who come to us at 11. And I suppose it's because my experience of my own school is that I know we've got a very warm environment for the girls when they come in that young, and it's very homely, and the house mistress is lovely and really sort of looks after them really, really well. That I know in my own school that it's absolutely fine for them to come at 11. I have worked in a previous school where it perhaps was a bit of a tougher environment. It was a co-educational environment, and some of the younger girls struggled a little bit. But I can say with total confidence and sincerity, from age 11 at Queenswood, they're really looked after and nurtured. So, oh, and the other thing that they get, sorry, I just mentioned this, at Queenswood, we give them a big sister from the sixth form who looks out for them and looks after them. And they're also paired up with a year 8 buddy. So they go around with them at the beginning, make sure they know where everything is and they're not lonely and they've got somebody to talk to at lunchtime. So that system in our school works really well. Not all schools have that, but it works really, really well. So we do put a lot of things in place to make them feel welcome and settled.
Yeah, so it's very sweet. It's like a family environment almost, being paired up with 2 older sisters.
Yeah.
Who's gone through the whole thing.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely. And they write to the girl in the summer holidays. So before they've even arrived, they get these little letters from their year 8 buddy and their big sister. So as soon as they see them, you know, they've already got a bond between them. So it's really lovely.
Okay, so last 2 final very quick questions. What is the admissions procedure like? Is Queenswood a selective school or is it non-selective? What type of girls are you looking for? And lastly, what spaces do you have left for September?
Okay, so we are a selective school. So we have our own entrance exams. So the girls take English, maths, verbal reasoning, and English as an additional language if they're coming in further down the school. If they're applying for 6th form, they also have to take exams in the 4 A-levels that they're intending to take. They also have to have an interview. So we perform that by Skype, so that's not a problem. And we ask for the reference from their current school. So that's a confidential reference, and we put all of those elements together because we're looking for the whole child. You know, it's all about the whole girl and her potential. So that is a really important fact to think about. We're not just looking at academics. Academics are clearly important. We're looking for the sorts of girls who will make the most of all the opportunities we have. And we've got so many things that girls can do, join in with, enjoy the cultural experiences, just basically throw themselves into school life. Try things. If they don't like them, that's fine. They move on, do something else, but get involved. And that's a really, really important part of life at Queenswood, getting involved and contributing. So in terms of spaces for September, so we are nearly full on year 7. So we would consider an application, but we're struggling slightly on year 7. Year 9 is our next biggest intake year. We have half a dozen spaces on year 9, and we do have spaces for year 12. So that's fine.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much for sharing about Queenswood with us, and thank you very much for your time. I think lots of parents found that very informative. If any parents still have any questions on the school or the boarding or social distancing, please message us either on our Facebook, or you can message us on our WhatsApp, or just give us a call. So I suppose that's it for today. Thank you very much, Donna, for your time again. And yeah, and we'll be in touch.
Okay, great. Thank you. Bye.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.